The following program is a Creative Magic Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Max Ivey again, and this is the What's Your Excuse show on the Creative Magic Network. And looking forward to having another great conversation with my friend and co-host Frederick Bai and our guest Jed Doherty, who he will tell you about in a minute. One of the things you can do is you can visit the Creative Magic store, where you can find both of my books available: Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, A Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success. And it's not the cookie, it's the bag, and an easy-to-follow guide to weight loss success. And so good morning, Frederick. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. My baby was born 2 days ago. I am tired, but I am awesome. Hey, today we have an exciting show. For all of you people, if you like illusions, illusion, comedy, music, dance, storytelling, magic, everything, this episode is for you. And today we have a very exciting show. And the reason is this: we have Jedlie on this show. And Jedlie is one of the nation's most exciting school show performers. He uses positive reinforcement, storytelling, illusions, comedy, music, and dance to motivate audiences to make healthy choices. Yes, build safe schools. We need safe schools, people. And stand up for one another and to be inclusive. How are you today, Jedlie?
I'm fantastic, Frederick. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And congratulations. Having a baby, that's wonderful, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Actually, I was here like 10 minutes ago. I just arrived home 10 minutes ago for the interview. I was in a rush. I was like, holy cow, I got to make it. But hey, you know what? I'm here and I'm happy.
Well, if you left your wife and new baby, I don't envy you. I don't want to be around when you get back together with her. You should wear
No. Her mother is there where she's taken care of. She's at the hospital. Everything is good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to be with you so much, man.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
I said it's just really great to be here, and it's great to be talking to my buddy Max. Max was a guest on my podcast, and it's great to reconnect with him.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it was actually during our talk during my podcast that I found out some stuff about Jed that made me think of him as somebody that the people out here needed to hear when we started doing our own show. And me and Jed had a good conversation about how many people don't really find out who they are until late in life. They have to go through a lot of other things before they get to the thing that is their passion, that they're really happy about doing, that gives them that reason to get up in the morning. And I was hoping we could start out by you telling the people the story you told me about how you ended up being a storyteller who uses magic to educate and inspire kids.
Wow, that is a long and twisty road. Yeah, it certainly wasn't something that I started out. I never envisioned it as a kid. And in fact, most people today will identify me as a magician. I don't think I saw my first magic show until I was in my 20s, and certainly didn't know how to do any kind of magic. My goal, my vision when I was in high school, the thing that I was aspiring to be was a priest in the Catholic Church. And I had a scholarship to a seminary that was going to train me to be a missionary in Africa. And I was attending a Catholic high school at that time. And the Jesuit priest at the school kind of grabbed me and said, hey, look, if you have this calling, that's great. But, you don't need to make this decision at 18. Why don't you go to college, work a little while? If God still wants you, he's going to want you at 26 or 25 or whatever. And so I took their advice and went to college, and I thought the best training for me, before seminary would be to get into social work. I always loved helping people. And so I became a social worker, and I worked in the juvenile justice field here in Massachusetts, worked in a detention center for boys, worked in a detention center for girls. The girls' center was much scarier than the guys, much more dangerous, much scarier. And then I did.
Why? We want to know why.
Okay. Because, well, here's why. Simple. When the guys get mad at you, they get mad at you. You knew it. They exploded. They reacted right there. You could deal with it. When the girls get mad at you, you got to smile and maybe a hug. And then 3 days later, a knife would come out. They wouldn't forget. So, and then I did the hardest job of all was working, trying to help those kids re-socializing back into the community, because even though the system said, hey, you did your time, you come in, you do your time, and when you get out, we're gonna the slate's gonna be wiped clean, and you can start your life over again. Folks in the community didn't want to hear about that. These kids were coming out, and they were 13 and 14 years old, and in some of the communities that they were living in, the community had already written them off and didn't want anything to do with them. And so that was a really tough gig. And it didn't pay a lot. And I was very poor, and I was working a lot of hours and wasn't living a very healthy lifestyle. And again, in the back of my mind, I thought, this is just training to be a priest. And went on a retreat with 25 other young men who were considering the priesthood. And when I arrived at the retreat center, the priest running the weekend asked me, he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I want to be a priest." And he said, "Have you ever asked God if he wanted you to be a priest?" And I thought, oh no, I haven't. And that night I did, and the answer came back that wasn't what God intended for me. And at the end of the weekend, 25 guys joined the priesthood, and I went home angry and kind of lost and a little bit bitter and really scared, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I certainly knew that I couldn't continue on in the field of social work. It was tearing me up. And so I, said a prayer and sat down at the newspaper and opened up the newspaper. And the first story that I saw was that Ringling Brothers was in town, and they were having auditions for Clown College. That afternoon, I looked up to heaven and I said, "Yeah, really? This is the answer?" And I went to the audition with absolutely no expectations other than to kill a couple of hours. And I knew the minute I was in the center ring in the old Boston Garden, and I knew that I was where I belonged, not necessarily in the circus, but performing was what I was being called to do. And at that point, the Ringling Brothers audition process, it's a long process. They invited me back to audition again down in New York City and in Hartford. And as I was waiting for their decision, I started studying different theatrical disciplines in Boston on my own and started performing. And pretty soon I was performing in schools. And I quickly found out that the issues that were important to me, helping kids make better choices for their lives, helping them learn how to be respectful and caring of one another and caring of themselves, that I could address that through magic and through clowning before the kids went out and committed crimes and assaulted people and hurt themselves and, became the people who the community was throwing away, that I could address those issues early on and help prevent that. And boy, it felt so much better.
Yeah.
And
well, Jedlie, we're gonna get to that. I think that's a very important part of your, the safe schools and everything. Education is really some part of your, you care about education and safe schools and stuff like that. Now, let me ask you this:
Sure.
What drove you? Because it's very rare that we hear young people saying, "I want to be a priest."
Uh-huh.
What drove you to that? Why did you want to be a priest so young?
Wow. I wanted to, I had a very strong relationship with God, not strong enough that I would actually ask him what he wanted me to do. But
where did it come from? Did it come from your parents?
No, actually it didn't. I grew up Catholic, but like a lot of kids, it was like, my parents woke us up on Sunday morning and told me to get to church and bring back a bulletin to make sure that I was there. They weren't active in it. They didn't attend themselves. And my father was, depending on what year it was, he was either Catholic or Episcopal, and half my family was Episcopal and half were Catholic, and most never went to church. There's just something, it certainly when, I felt a deep connection to God and felt that God was real at a very young age, 6 or 7 years old. I felt God's presence in my life. And, when it was, I always went to church, my parents were, telling me to go and bringing back evidence that I was there, but it wasn't a big deal for me. There certainly were ways around it. I certainly could have just shown up at the door and grabbed the bullet and brought it home. But I liked going to church. I liked that feeling of being, with other people and praying and
what kind of church did you go to? Was it like evangelistic? I'm sorry for the terminology, but evangelistic church, or is it like a regular Catholic church?
Well, initially when I was younger, it was a quote unquote regular Catholic church.
And you loved it?
I did, but it was when I got to high school and I was, studying with Jesuits, and I had a much more intimate experience, and I did attend some more churches that were more evangelical and had contemporary Christian music, and that was when it really kind of connected for me.
Because the traditional Catholic Church, for me, I remember like even today, after 5 minutes, my mind starts to wander. What I mean? It goes just, now I start thinking about life, outside of it. So,
yeah, well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and say that every single mass, every single service that I go to, I'm like lasered in 100%. We all have times in our lives when our faith is stronger stronger sometimes than it is at other times. And I certainly have questioned my faith all through my life. But the one thing that always connected with me was the call for Jesus for us to serve and other people and to love other people. He really didn't go around saying, well, I want you to build this big edifice for me, and I want you to kneel in front of me in adoration for 45 minutes every week. And, I want you to put me back in this gold-plated tabernacle. What he said in his words were, I want you to get down on your knees and to love and to serve others and to care about others. And that's what resonated with me. And that was why, when I was waiting to make a final decision whether or not to go in the seminary, the choice was to go and to serve people through social work. And, and I think today as a performer, oftentimes people say, gee, don't you wish you could just go out and do a magic show and not worry about a message? And it's like, no, I have this opportunity. I have a chance to get together with kids. So even if I'm performing at a playground for a summer concert series, I'm using my magic to remind kids that their life is a special and precious gift and that their families love them. I think it's to me, it's just a real blessing to be able to share that kind of message with kids.
Right. And I think that what you have come to the conclusion of is that you always wanted to serve people, and probably especially serve the young people in your community or in our world.
Yeah.
And you didn't let yourself get locked. Well, at first you did, but eventually you avoided this thing we have of wanting to find a box to put ourselves into, wanting to have a job title that we can tell people we are. I mean, you went from priest to social work, and thank goodness eventually to performing, to clowning, and to magic. But a lot of people wouldn't have realized that they were being called to serve and to serve the same people that they wanted to, but just in a different way. And I think that's one of the things I love about what you're doing and how you came to what you're doing, is that you didn't just say, I grew up to be a priest, there's no way I can be a clown.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think our society is, and it's changing, not because people unconsciously change, because of the economics, it's changing. But, when I was growing up, the idea was you just found a job that you could hold on to for the rest of your life. And usually that job, you're going to do what your dad did or what your grandfather did, or you got into wherever you had a contact. And, and that was the mentality, at least, in the blue collar neighborhood, inner city neighborhood that I grew up in. There's this whole thing about going out and doing something that spoke to your soul and, all that kind of, that was, oh, that's your hobby. That's what you do on the weekends. You can volunteer for that, but you need to take care of the practical things. You need to pay the bills and you need to buy a house and, save for your kids' college and all that kind of stuff. And that stuff is very, very important. And thankfully, with my wife and I, we've been able to do that. Despite the crazy kind of choices and twists and turns my life has taken, but it's hard. I took an awful lot of grief with my decisions. There was a lot of people called me not nice things, very unkind things, telling me I was making.
I imagine growing up where you did, irresponsible was probably one of the kinder words they used for some of those not so nice things.
Yes, exactly. It would have been, that would have been a very kind word considering.
All right. Once again, we're here with Jedlie. He's one of the nation's most exciting school show performers. He uses positive reinforcement, storytelling, illusions, comedy, music, and dance to motivate audiences to make healthy choices, build safe schools, stand up for one another, and to be inclusive. And right before continuing this conversation, guys, if you have a passion, something that fuels your curiosity, well, guys, on top of getting fascinating interviews such as this one straight to your inbox, when you subscribe to our free Creative Magic community, you will get super cool exclusive gifts in return, such as the ebook Happiness Quotes by the Ambassador of Happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, one of our hosts, and an exclusive conversation with two of my favorite people, the Nigerian sensation Alex Okoroji and the blind blogger Max Ivey. Yes, yours truly, the host of the show that you're listening to right now. And we talk the influence of friends and college education on our lives, the competitiveness in a crowded field, and the importance of business and financial education in arts and entrepreneurship and more. And Alex also has a special gift for you inside people. I promise you will get inspired and entertained. Subscribe for free at frederickby.com. That's Frederick with a C, by like bye-bye.com. Take it away, Max.
Okay, I was reading on your website yesterday, and I didn't know about this, but I'm really curious about it. Could you tell me about Meltdown, your movie that you wrote, produced, and I think was even performed in, that was shown all over the country in classrooms as simulcast? It sounds like a big deal that I somehow missed, but I'd love to hear about it.
Well, it was a big deal in its way. We produced Meltdown, The Walls That Separate back in 1989. When I was in the process of figuring out how to make a living as a performer, a school for kids with severe developmental disabilities. These are kids who were 10, 14, 18 years old, and they were still in diapers and couldn't communicate and couldn't feed themselves and couldn't walk and talk and whatnot. And I had been working as a lifeguard, kind of making money while I'm figuring out how to be a performer. And they offered me a job. They said, you do great with the kids, teaching them how to swim, and you're just so natural with them. And we have this project that we think you'd be perfect for because you like to perform, you like to get out there. We found a grant, and the grant calls for us to help our kids get out into the community and develop friendships. And I thought, sure. And I worked with the school to create this program that brought these kids who typically, they were going to school in a hospital. And they typically, their day was get on a bus and not be seen by anybody, go into this hospital all day long, and get back on the bus and go home and not have any contact outside of their immediate family and outside of the trained professionals at school. They certainly didn't have typical friends in the neighborhood. And
why would they behave that way? You know what I mean? Like, for somebody who doesn't work with, kids like them, I mean, why do they behave that way? Are they, how do they feel?
Why are the typical kids acting towards them?
Yeah, because you say that they didn't want to see anybody except their family and people who were close to them.
Well, oh no, it's not that the kids didn't want to see. It's that they didn't have an opportunity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these kids were so disabled that they were dependent on people to take them different places, and like a lot of people, and Max, you certainly didn't experience this in growing up in the carnival atmosphere. There are a lot of people who have different abilities, and folks around them say, well, you have no ability and we're not going to give you it. So just kind of sit back there and just exist. And that's what was happening for these kids. And
yeah, but these kids feel that. They feel that, I'm sure a lot of these kids have a lot of ambition, and I'm told that, I'm sure, they feel that limitation imposed on them, I'm sure.
Well, yeah. And these kids, and one of the things, Frederick, too, is, the reality of it is these kids didn't have a lot of abilities. Like I said, there's some of them were 18 years old and they weren't able to walk or read or talk, or feed themselves. So the idea of learning, we would all hope that there'd be a miracle that they would learn, be able to hold a job or whatnot. But before we get to that, my goal, my role in this school was to help them just develop friendships, to help the community see them as human beings. This was before, right around the time that the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. In fact, some folks used MELTDOWN to kind of push that agenda, that law through. So we created this program that got kids into typical schools, and one of the things that I noticed is that all my kids, all the kids with disabilities, they loved me to read to them. And there was a typical public school in the neighborhood where this hospital was located, and I knew that there were kids in that public school that had trouble reading and that needed to practice their reading. So I went to the principal. I said, hey, look, I have kids who love to hear kids read to them, and you have kids who need practice reading. How about we bring our kids together? And we did, and that was how it started. I got together and would meet these kids in the public school who needed help, with remedial reading, gave them a chance to read to my kids. They loved it. My kids loved it. They would laugh. They would smile. They would react. The kids in the public schools who were struggling with reading, who felt like failures, all of a sudden it's like, wow, I'm able to make somebody happy with this thing that was so difficult for me. And now all of a sudden, instead of reading being a chore for them, reading, it was something that they looked forward to. So this program that a lot of people didn't really think could work really just kind of took off. And all of the kids in that public school wanted to be a part of it. And the majority of the families of the kids that I was serving, the kids with disabilities, they wanted their kids to be able to get out and to be in a school with other kids that was noisy and loud and so full of life. That a lot of special needs schools, we're in a hospital. It felt like being in a hospital. And the parents would come out and they would see their kids in this setting, and it was beautiful. It would bring tears to their eyes. And so the state of Massachusetts, who had funded that initial program, said, we want you to document this. And I had the crazy idea, being the weird person that I am, I had the crazy idea of instead of making a documentary, why don't we make a fun show for kids? So we can show what we did and we can have fun with it. And so we created a live stage show called MELTDOWN, The Walls That Separate. And the basic story is that I have a friendship with a keyboard player who is blind. His name is Jerry Mack. He was in the show. As we're developing our friendships, there's a pretty girl comes along and she's a singer. And so we get to know each other, and I fall off the stage and suddenly I'm disabled. And at first this girl who was, who liked me was like, oh, wow, you're in a wheelchair. Oh, I don't know if I can be with you. And then, we figure out a way to be friends. And throughout the course of that live show, the video is showing this live stage show. We intersperse scenes of the kids who are actually in this program getting together and doing stuff together and talking to the typical kids, as we call them, the kids in public school, asking them about their experience. And there are these inner city 4th and 5th graders who are going, wow, when I first met this kid, I was scared. He couldn't talk to me, and he looked kind of different, and he was in a wheelchair, and I didn't know, but man, we become friends. I love him. I love spending time with him. I love spending time with her. We eat Chinese food together. We read stories together. We go swimming together. And so it was just this nice, there was a fun show that had magic and music and dance, and a story that kind of grabbed the kids' attention, and in interspersed between the scenes were, the real live documentary stories of like, yeah, we did this and we met these kids, and it's kind of cool. And, it was cablecast nationally. A lot of schools, after the, Americans with Disabilities Act passed, and schools were being called to integrate into mainstream kids with disabilities into regular classrooms. A lot of those schools use this. I spent a couple of years going around and just showing the video and answering questions. And oftentimes there were a couple of kids, a couple of those kids with disabilities came with me to a lot of those schools, and just, kids who had never met a person with a disability before, all of a sudden met this person who had profound disabilities. But wow, she's on that screen and she's helping you do a magic trick, and that's amazing. And so it was a great experience. And Max, the best thing about the experience was that it was through that experience, through that program with that little girl that I was just mentioning, that I met my wife. We were at that public school one day, and I'd seen this teacher in the hallway, and this little girl, Jennifer, she would, we'd walk in, and she was kind of like a little star, and she was able to walk with help. And I remember seeing this woman, walking down the hallway, and I turned to Jennifer. It was probably very inappropriate. And I said, wow, she's really cute. I'd like to get to know her. And then later that day, we were down in the cafeteria, and Jennifer was going to have lunch with the kids in the public school. And at one point I turned around and she had left. She had walked away from the table, and lo and behold, she walked herself over to that teacher. And so I had to go over, and Jennifer's looking up at the teacher, smiling. Jennifer was just beautiful, beautiful, blue eyes and beautiful smile. And the teacher's looking, and I come over and I go, oh, hi. And the teacher goes, hey, what's her name? I go, that's Jennifer. And she goes, what's your name? I go, I'm Jedlie. And then I asked her out, and then we got married, and here it is 26 years later, we're still together.
That's a heck of a story. And I want to key in on one word, and okay. It's a word we really got to do something about. The one word, a couple of words I want to key on are weird and crazy. We got to do something about those two words, my friend, because it's the crazy stuff that works. It's the crazy stuff that's fun.
You're absolutely right. One of the reasons that the whole project was successful is that I didn't go to school. I wasn't a trained special needs teacher. I wasn't a therapist. I didn't have any of that training. So I didn't have there was no schooling behind me to tell me what these kids couldn't do. I just met them, and for some reason they clicked with me, and I saw them as kids who did things differently, and kids who needed help. But I treated them like kids, and I talked to them like kids. And, with the 18-year-olds, I remember I get so much trouble for this. There's this one 18-year-old kid, and he was a great guy, Hector, and he loved music. And this was early on, and I don't know how, but I loved video, and I was very early in the video, and somehow I got a video of Donna Summers. And Hector was in my office one day, and we're watching this video. Now Hector, everybody thought was blind. They said he is absolutely blind, 100%. He can't see anything. Well, when Donna Summers came on, he would just rock, and he would get all excited and everything. And I said, I don't think this kid is blind. I think he's looking at Donna Summers. She's kind of cute, and he's reacting to that. And then I did a couple of things, like pulled out the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. And man, he liked that too. And I'm like, and with the videos, they're going, oh, he's reacting to the music. And I'm like, okay. And then when they saw them reacting to the swimsuit edition, they're like, oh, it's so inappropriate for you showing him that swimsuit edition. And I'm like, wait, he can see. But that was lost on them. So,
all right. Once again,
well,
we're here with.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to do my little commercial break, okay? Like it takes like 45 seconds. All right, once again, we're here with Jedlie. He's one of the nation's most exciting school show performers. He uses positive reinforcement, storytelling, illusions, comedy, music, and dance to motivate audiences to make healthy choices, build safe schools, stand up for one another, and to be inclusive. You can find him at Jedlie.com. That's JEDLIE.com. And by the way, guys, are you an Amazon shopper? When you use our Amazon links at frederickbuy.com, Frederick with a C, buy like bye-bye.com, Amazon kicks back a few bucks to the network, and it helps cover production costs at no additional cost to you. Ain't that cool? No hidden fees, no nothing. So if you like what you hear, you can help by going over to frederickbuy.com. Click on the blog page and click the Amazon link in the sidebar for all your online shopping. And we have it for Amazon France, the good old US of A. We have it for Amazon Canada, of course, and Amazon France. It is that simple, and bookmark it to find it easier. Take it away, Max. It's all yours.
Jedlie. I had one of those moments there where I forgot who I was talking to. I'm sorry. Jedlie, you were telling the story. Yeah. You were telling the story about Hector, and it reminded me of a couple of things. One is that whenever I would work on the Midway, I'm one of these kids. I lost my vision gradually, so I was very good at looking at people when I talked to them, which is something that not all blind people will do. A lot of times when I would be working on the Midway, people would accuse me of not being blind because I was looking straight at them. I was looking straight at them out of practice and out of the belief that they were probably going to try to steal something from me, but that's a whole other story. I actually had one woman who I dated, who I met online, who during the course of the evening undressed without telling me because she wanted to find out for sure if I could see or not. I found out later that she was naked, but I didn't. But there was a couple of minutes where I didn't know this. So, so I'm not. So I really don't have a problem with what you did with Hector, and you probably helped Hector a lot by finding out that he wasn't blind.
Yeah, well, thankfully I didn't have to go to that.
I thought you would appreciate the story better than most.
Absolutely. Yes.
So how did you keep yourself going and motivated and fighting all those negative thoughts and emotions that come at you when you're first starting out? How did you make it through those first few years when you didn't know exactly what or how you were going to do it, but you had this idea that you could help people by performing?
Wow. A prayer was a big thing. Absolutely. And also, one of the other kind of part-time jobs that I did during that time as I was, trying to figure out Max, in the business of show business, it's one thing. Show business is two words, and the bigger of the two words is business. And so you can have the best show in the world, but if you don't know how to take care of the business, you ain't got no show. So, And so, I learned the show first, and it took me a while to learn the business. And while I was doing that, I was coaching back at that old high school. And I played soccer in high school and college, and I was back coaching the soccer team. And at that time, still, soccer was, kind of like the poor cousin to football in fall sports. And at our high school, we had a legendary football coach, one of these guys who just, won everything, was just bigger than life. And for some reason, he loved me throughout high school. He was one of my biggest advocates. And even though I was playing soccer, he would, I think he loved the way that I played soccer because I wasn't very skilled. I could kick the ball straight and I could hit people. So, cause he kind of related to that. And, and then when I came back to coach, we developed this great friendship, and he was a huge fan. And actually he gave me the performing name Jedlie. And, and it was like one of those things. It's like, hey, if this guy is in my corner, I don't care what anybody else says, because it doesn't matter. I got this guy. This guy got my back. And that was really, really huge. And, and he's like, so you want to be a clown and do magic? And, hey, we got the big Thanksgiving Day football. We'll have an audience today. Do you want to do something at halftime? And I said, sure. And I didn't realize, audience meant 10,000 people in a college football stadium. And unfortunately his wife passed away the night before the game. And, no one knew that until the end of the first half. And they said, we want to take a moment to remember, Coach Carter's wife and say a prayer. And so the whole stadium went silent. And then it was, and now here's Jedlie.
Wait a minute. The Coach Carter?
What's that?
The Coach Carter?
In Boston, Jim Carter.
Oh, Carter. Okay, no, never mind.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about the movie.
No. So, I went out and everything and that little skit that I did on this big football field by myself went wrong, except for one thing. The whole point of it was that I was going to kick an 80-yard field goal. And, like I said, everything went wrong except the fact that the ball went 80 yards and it went through the uprights. And so that worked. And so the 10,000 people who were kind of like, weren't interested after the first kind of 30 seconds, that caught their attention. And it was like, how did he do that?
The question I have for you is after that was over with, though, did you feel better about your future? Did anybody come along and go, they wanted you to perform at their events? Did anything? Because when people talk to me about doing interviews, I like to tell them that you can have a bad interview. You can have a talk that feels like it was horrible, but it can still have a good effect either for you or the audience or the host. It just depends on your attitude and your approach. So I was just wondering what the end result was after you did this.
The end result was I sat down and a couple of days later, because Coach hadn't got a chance to see it because he was inside and he was also grieving. And so he took a look at the videotape and he said, hey, you're still alive. You succeeded. And I thought, yeah, that's right. I am still alive. I can go out and try it again. And that was just, during that initial period where I was going out and learning and learning on stage a lot of times. And, oftentimes he would check in with me. He goes, how did the show go? And I go, well, wasn't great. He goes, but did the kids laugh in the end? Did they have a good time? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, then you had a win. No problem. It doesn't matter if you won ugly, you won. And, that was, so he was a big supporter. And yeah. And, I quickly learned from him that even from your failures, even from your mistakes, you can learn a whole lot. You just can't give up. You have to keep on keeping on. If you have something and you discover that that's your passion, you can't let anything stop you from it. You need to keep believing in yourself and keep going forward.
And, that's one of my favorite sports expressions, an ugly win. I think far too often people are thinking that things have to go perfect for it to be a success. But I love the phrase and recently a coach even said it was an ugly win, but we're not going to give it back.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things when kids get a chance to ask questions after a show and they get tired of hearing me say, well, yes, no, I can't tell you the secret of that. But if you'd like to learn it, you can check this magic book. So after they stop asking me, how do you do this? Sometimes kids will say, hey, have you ever made a mistake on stage? And I'm like, yeah, all the time. And they go, what do you do? And I go, well, I just keep on going. And if you keep on going, most of the time people don't even know that you made a mistake. And lots of times when kids ask me that question is, I made a mistake today. And they go, when? I go, you didn't see it, so I'm not going to tell you. It doesn't matter. But it's just that whole, you learn it as a performer, you learn as a dancer, as a musician, as a magician, is you keep on going. You make a mistake, you just keep on going. You don't acknowledge it. And you get through it.
Isn't that a metaphor for life though? You know what I mean? Like, this is how life is. Yeah. You can plan all you want, but the truth of the matter is, it's just how you react and act in the moment.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
And as long as your mistake doesn't hurt somebody, don't call it to their attention. Just let it go by.
Exactly. That was one of the things. You have to, if you hurt someone, you need to acknowledge it and take responsibility and help them. But otherwise, hey, just keep going. Make it okay.
Or do like some of the great performers have done and make the mistake part of the show. There are guys who can just totally screw it up and they can pass it off as this. Well, that was the show this week.
Yep.
So
yeah,
don't call attention to the mistakes unless they actually, really harm somebody. And then, like you say, you have to make amends and do what you can to fix things. But I think a lot of people do that. They feel like they have to point out their mistakes or their shortcomings to other people. And as far as I know, there's nothing that says you have to tell people when you screwed up.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen that either. And if I did, I ignored it.
Hey, talk to us a little bit about your podcast and what you're doing now.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Mara Sweeney. Mara was a guest on the We Choose Respect Parentcast. I created the podcast in June of 2015, so a little over a year ago, to be a companion to my live show, the We Choose Respect stage show. And my intention was that the kids who saw the show would take home a bookmark that would encourage their parents to go to WeChooseRespect.com and download a free magic book. And while you're there, there's all these really neat podcasts with guests like Catherine Ryan Hyde, the author of Pay It Forward, and Max Ivey, the blind blogger, and Mara Sweeney, and lots and lots of other fantastic guest educators and doctors and authors. And the strange thing was that a lot of those parents they go online, they download the magic book for their kids, they become fans. But the show took on a life of its own. It has a worldwide audience. It's growing by leaps and bounds. I'm just looking at the statistics right now. We're closing in on 25,000 downloads for the month of September alone. And that was kind of the goal I had, is, if I could get 20,000 people a month to download this show, I'd be very happy. Well, it happened. And and again, like we've been talking about, the first show I think that I did was, maybe 100 people downloaded it, and then it was like 500 a month, and then it went up to 1,000, and then I hit 10,000 a month. It's like, woohoo, but it just kept on going. And one of the things that keeps it going is that I just have such a great time meeting these guests. I mean, I met Max through this thing called the We Choose Respect Parentcast, and I made a friend, and I heard a great story, and I was able to share a great story. And I get to sit down and pick the brain of these incredibly respected doctors and authors, and I get to hang out and talk with them for a half an hour, 45 minutes. And it's just a blast. And we've had guests from all over the world, and we have listeners from all over the world. It's I feature a musical guest at the end of every show, and there's one band that's been on a bunch of time called Rocket, and they're from Austria. And every time they come on the show, all of a sudden I have a spike in downloads from Slovakia. I didn't even know where Slovakia was. It still started popping up.
I hope the listeners can really hear your passion, because I know that I hear it in the enjoyment, the joy, the fun. Just because it's what you're doing, what you plan on doing to make a living or to produce that income, doesn't mean it can't be fun at the same time. And
oh yeah,
I can really tell that you're having fun doing this. And that's one of the reasons why I have been doing these shows with Frederick. Uh-huh. And the reason why I won't do it by myself is because I don't want to have to think about it. I just want to enjoy the conversation and having a good time with whoever I happen to be talking with today. So really appreciate you coming on and talking with us and sharing a lot of this great stuff with our listeners. And it is funny how life works with me being on your show, now you being on here, Mara. Who knows? I ever find somebody to help me record, maybe I'll come on as your musical guest someday.
There you go. That sounds great. As long as you don't play calliope music. I had it one summer. I worked at an amusement park one summer when I was 16, running the carousel. And for a 16-year-old who loved heavy metal music, listening to calliope music for 8 hours a day was like torture. I have done a few shows where they introduce me after playing calliope music, and I have to correct them because they always go. You know this because you've been all over the show business, and you know that there are different communities in the show business world. Several guests have confused me thinking that I'm circus people. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I have to correct them and tell them, no, I'm carny.
Yep.
Because, there's circus, there's carny, there's gypsy, there's independents, there's performers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I have had a couple of awkward interview starts because they played calliope music and thought I was circus people. So I don't really, I like a good, calliope music belongs on the Midway or at the fairground. But even there, they're starting to replace it with more modern music.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Well, you talked about show business being, about the show and about the business. Well, the thing is the business side of it is what has forced them to change the music. People want to see performances choreographed to Taylor Swift and and Katy Perry and Madonna and whoever else. Yep. So. But I do really appreciate you. I have fun doing these, and I usually learn something for myself as well as everybody else that's involved. And the one thing I learned from you today is you taught me a marketing trick that I'm going to use, and that is the bookmark. I'm going to have to get me some bookmarks printed. I'm an author. I should know this already, but I love how you did that. You give the bookmarks to the kids. They take them home to the parents. The parents go online, and you're building an audience before you even have a show to give them an audience to go to. So I think that was genius.
Well, I'd love
genius. And this isn't a show about business, but I still have to give it up to you.
Well, I'd love to tell you that it was my idea, but I stole it for somebody else, and that's what we do in show business.
Yeah,
we borrow ideas. Excuse me. No, we don't steal. We borrow.
A good friend of mine told me once the last new joke was told by the Greeks. So,
all right, Jedlie. Thank you very much for and where can people find you and where they can find you?
Absolutely, you can, as you say, you can go online to Jedlie.com, Jedlie, Jedlie.com. Find out about all of my shows there. The We Choose Respect show is a great show for any school that's looking to motivate their kids to be respectful, build a bully-free school, build a safer school environment. We also have a great show called Boss My Body that talks to kids about making healthy choices, saying no to substances that are harmful, saying yes to exercise and healthy eating. We also have great family shows that are perfect for a library or a special event or a county fair. And also, if you want to check out, please do check out the We Choose Respect Parentcast. You can find that at WeChooseRespect.com. It's also available on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, and it just became available on the iHeartRadio platform.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That is a big deal. Congratulations. And I just want to make sure I get the chance to thank you for coming on and spending some time with us and our listeners. And it's been fun. It's as usual, it's gone by way too quickly, and hopefully we'll get to connect again at some point.
Absolutely.
And I do feel like me and you have become friends, Jedlie. So I appreciate you mentioned that earlier. And hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure coming on, and Frederick, it was great meeting you. Congratulations again on your baby. What's the baby's name?
Evan.
Evan.
Yeah.
And is this number one?
Yes.
Congratulations. Your life has changed forever.
Yeah, I think so, but I'm happy. It doesn't matter. I'm really, really happy.
Well, you need to start listening to the Parentcast. We have all sorts of great advice for parents, especially new parents.
I will. No, it's true. I have to become a better parent. You're absolutely right. Seriously.
Awesome. Hey, Max, Frederick, thank you so much. It's been an honor being on your show.
All right. Thank you, Jedlie.
Thank you.
A great day, man. Thank you. All right, Max. How is it? So, what did you learn, man?
I learned a lot more than I expected to. I mean, I had known Jedlie before and had heard his story, which is, as I mentioned before, why I wanted to have him on with us. But I think it just shows that there are so many ways for you to get to that end goal in life if you're open to the opportunities that come along. I mean, in his case, he opened up a newspaper or a magazine on a day when he was trying to decide what to do next, and there happened to be an ad for a clown college. And I have to wonder how many other things like that happen to people every day where, you will get an email or a phone call, or somebody will be having a conversation with someone, and an opportunity will come up, and you either ignore it or you don't think that it's something that you would be capable of doing, or maybe you just aren't in the right frame of mind that particular minute. But it just seems like there's so many different ways to get it done, and so many opportunities that come along every day, and that most people not only aren't taking advantage of, but aren't even looking for or aware of. And that's the kind of the thing I'm getting out of it. And, once he realized that he was a performer at heart, look at all the different ways he's managed to use his performing skills, his natural talent, or that thing deep down inside him that makes him want to get in front of a crowd to educate and inspire.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I learned from him is his enthusiasm is still in his voice. He's still very childlike, it's fun to talk to people, have this enthusiasm, and it's something that I think we all should strive, because so many adults, man, they lose their light. Like, they lose it. They lose their enthusiasm. They lose their light, their glow. And as life goes on, and, you talk to people like Jedlie, and man, he still, in many ways, in a positive way, still sounds like a kid. You know what I mean? And a glowing kid, let's put it that way, in his voice, I can hear it.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't agree with you more. When I talk to him, he makes, and you talk childlike. It reminds me of something my dad used to say on the rides. He used to say, grown up is only a kid that's now at least 48 inches tall.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, and I think that's Jedlie. I think he's a kid that's taller than 48 inches. You know, I mean,
hey, you quote your father a lot. He must have had a big influence on you.
We spent many hours together, and yeah, he had a big influence on me. But you know, and I guess at an early age, I realized the value of listening to the people that were older than I was.
Yeah.
I spent a lot more time with grown-ups than I did with kids, so that might be why I started listening to the grown-ups sooner than some of my other brothers or cousins did. But yeah, he had a big influence on me, and I'm grateful for the lessons he taught me, both the ones he taught me directly and the ones that he let me figure out by watching him do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, guys. Go ahead.
That's one of those other things you have to really be careful of, and something that you probably already figured out as a new parent is they are always watching, they are always listening, and they will always remember, and they will most likely remember what you do more than what you say.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, man, I really want my kid to see that, hey, you know, my dad is doing something that he loves every single day. I don't want to be the dad, you know, comes home tired, and, you know, I mean, look, I understand the people who do it, you know, and I understand why they do it, and I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not going to do it or whatever, but I really want my kid to see a parent or parents that enjoy their work. Because I think it really translates. It's really, I don't know. That's the example I want to give, you know?
Well, I think you will, because I think you're blessed to grow up in a different time, Frederick. I mean, I had this conversation with David Rafe over a year ago. He's got 4 kids. 2 of them were raised when he was working a regular job, and 2 of them were raised after he started his podcast and started working for himself. And 2 of his kids, one of them's a lawyer, the other one's a doctor. The other 2, they're like, we want to do what Dad does. We want to be able to we want to be able to have a business where we can where we can work from the back porch and still live in a nice house. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, they want to more enjoy, and for better or worse, the recent economic upheaval in the U.S. and Canada has helped a lot of people see opportunities to do something other than what their parents did, or what they were taught to do, or even what they've done for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Jobs that they thought would last forever are gone. And I think probably about the only jobs that you can still count on in this country generationally, like people used to, are police, fire, and ambulance. Beyond that, I really can't think of a profession where there's much in the way of security.
True.
So,
all right, guys.
I think you're blessed, and I think your kids will be blessed that we're all living in a different time when it's more about doing things you love and finding a way to do something that you love, as opposed to just earning a check. So, another great show, Frederick. I've loved hanging out with you, but I know that you're busy and you've got other places to be too. So.
That's all right. I just want to say to the people out there, this podcast is FREE free every time you download it on iTunes or Stitcher. So please go over there, subscribe. It is listener supported. So tell a friend, leave a 5-star review. Yes, a 5-star, not a 4-star, not a 3, a 5-star review. It helps a brother out. And by the way, I want to thank everybody who pledged to our Patreon page. You are really helpful to the show, and we are grateful for your help. In case you're wondering, guys, Patreon is a simple, easy, fast, easy way to for you to contribute to the network every single month and get super cool exclusive rewards in return. I promise you will love the perks. Our Patreon page is at frederickby.com. That's Frederick with the C, by like bye-bye.com, and click Patreon in the header. The money is used to cover our production costs and editing time. You can contribute for as low as one little tiny dollar. And by the way, Max, you have a couple of books, don't you?
Yep, over in the Creative Magic store on frederickby.com is Leading You Out of the Darkness into the Light, a Blind Man's Inspirational Guide to Success, or It's Not the Cookie, It's the Bag, an easy to follow guide to weight loss success. And if people visit theblindblogger.net, They can check out my blog and some of the content I share to inspire others. And I'm currently offering in addition to the free 30-minute coaching that they can get by supporting the Patreon page of Creative Magic Network. Everybody has something they need to ask for, but a lot of people are afraid to send that pitch email. So if they sign up to my email list, I'm going to review one of their pitch emails for free and help them craft an email that will get them booked on a radio show like I did the first time that I met you, Frederick. So I want to help people, move forward. And one of the ways I think I can help them is by getting them past the fear of asking for the things that they need in their lives. So that's over at theblindblogger.net. But we do have other hosts here at frederickby.com, like Mara Sweeney. And we're going to have some other great new hosts coming along in the next few months. So y'all need to sign up for the mailing list.
Yeah, awesome. So Max, and one final word, Max.
If you live in the New York City area, I'm going to be there between December 22nd and January of 2016, January 3rd of 2017. And I would love to meet our listeners. I'd love to be a part of any event that they would like to host. And I would love to have some people from there show me this great city that everybody has been telling me about.
Awesome. And don't forget, people, stay safe, live with purpose, passion, and love. Bye-bye.